Good evening, Mr. Polinsky. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Village of Ossining Historic Preservation Commission. Before we proceed further, and just for completeness of the record, I just want to state my name for the record. I'm Adam Markovics, the chair of the HPC. Could the other folks in the meeting tonight state their names for the record?
Catherine Wilson.
Mary Kay Greiner.
Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan.
Jaime Martinez, Planning Director.
Okay, very well. Unfortunately, Mr. Polinsky, we do not have a quorum this evening. The HPC consists of 7 members. There are only 3 of us here this evening. But I've had an opportunity to review your application, or the applicant's application. Seems pretty straightforward to me, and I was hoping that we could have a brief discussion on the record tonight about the application for a sign. And this is at 195 Main Street, I believe.
Correct.
Thank you, Jaime.
So,
Go ahead.
so like you said, I think it's a pretty straightforward application, but since it is in the historic district, that's what brings us here tonight. The sign that we're proposing is a 1-inch PVC sign painted black, and then we would have raised gold lettering, 1/2-inch raised gold lettering, painted gold lettering on top of that sign blank. So it would give a 3-dimension sign. I think the colors, fit within the village and the town. And as you can see, they're just be taking the right portion of the storefront. They're not taking the entire store. That's why so there's room for another tenant to move in. And hopefully we'll set the precedent, and they'll have to have a matching sign when they choose to, or when they find another tenant. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but like I said, I kind of feel like it was like you said, pretty straightforward application. I don't think we're asking for anything out of the ordinary here. And I think it would fit with the historic district.
Okay, I have a few questions for you. I'd invite my colleagues, Mary Kay and Catherine, to chime in if they have any questions. But I'll start. Generally, what we're most concerned about is the way in which signs are mounted. So could you say something more about how the sign is going to be mounted onto the building?
Okay, so what we normally do in this case is we do an angle bracket on the top of the sign, an angle bracket on the I'm just trying to think about how to say it clearly. If we have like an L bracket running the whole length of the sign on the top, and also one on the bottom, what we do is we screw those 2 angle brackets on the wall first. Then we push the sign into its place, and then we screw the sign from the top and the bottom so you don't see any of the fasteners, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Thank you.
Okay.
It's difficult for me to tell from the photo, but what is the material into which the sign is going to be, or on which the sign is going to be mounted?
I believe that's
brick?
No, I think that's like a wood facade or something that was made. I don't think the brick goes all the way down. I think that sign panel actually kind of sits in front of the brick.
Okay.
As well as I think that'll, like the aluminum flashing where the gooseneck lights are mounted, I think that's all like a facade that they had created.
Right. The lettering in the sign is supposed to be gold, right? It's a little hard to tell the color from.
It would be a painted gold, yes.
Okay. So it looks yellow in the photo
Yeah.
you're looking at.
But it wouldn't be a metallic gold.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with this proposal.
And Adam, we have a quorum now as our historian and member Joyce Cole has joined us.
Oh, terrific.
Hello,
Hi, Joyce.
how are you?
Joyce, you've saved the day. We can, I think, make a decision on this application tonight. We have 4 of us now. This is a sign proposal. And Joyce, by the way, thank you for, I know you had a conflict this evening, and I really appreciate your making the effort to show up this evening. We're looking at an application for a sign for a new business that's moving into 195 Main Street, presumably a beauty supply store.
Can I just ask a real quick question to the applicant? I noticed that the sign on the wall, Nova21 is the same height as the 2 lines over Beauty Supply. On the bottom, the like sort of cutout, it is not. It seems like that's probably just an error.
Yeah, it's an error. It should be centered in there and fill the space. It shouldn't be. I don't know if it was the wrong file that got sent over or something but that is a mistake.
It's supposed to be the same size, right?
It's supposed to be the same size
Okay, good. That's it.
and uniform, uniform black all around, so it's centerized.
So thank you for your eagle eyes, Jaime. I appreciate that.
Are you talking about the font or the centering of the Nova sign?
Yeah, I'll show you. I'm gonna draw
Okay.
just to make it clear. So basically, this Nova is supposed to fill in this little gap here, and there's supposed to be some gap here. So it's supposed to stretch out that way, so that it meets this corner, same size, right? And here it's done correctly.
Okay.
Here it is not. You can see that the gap between Nova21 and Beauty Supply is much smaller than it is here. Which it's supposed to look like this, I think, and not supposed to look like this.
Yeah, it's supposed to look at the one on the top. I think I don't know what happened.
So with that being said, I'm satisfied that this is an appropriate sign for the space. I would like to see a sample of the color that's going to be used for the lettering, but subject to that one provision, I would move to approve this application, but before I say anything more, make a motion to approve it with the one condition that a sample of the gold lettering be provided. Mary Kay, Catherine, Joyce, any comments?
No.
I was just wondering, is it engraved and then the letters are painted? Is it like a piece of, is it wood or is it just flat?
No, so the letters are actually raised. So the letters are a 1/2 inch raised letter on top of the background. So rather than carve it in, it's just they're protruding. So it's kind of just this different look that the customer preferred.
Yeah, so it won't be flat. That was my only
It won't be
question.
flat. It's got dimension to it. Yes.
I think that will help too.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve the application with the condition that a sample of the gold lettering be provided to a member of the HPC to ensure that it's an appropriate color. Is there a volunteer this evening to review the sample?
Let me ask this question first. Mr. Polinsky, is there a way that you can Adam, are you looking for someone to actually have a hard copy of the sample as compared to a remote viewing?
Yeah, because I really can't
Okay,
tell from the photo what it doesn't look gold in the photo. It looks yellowish, and
I got you.
there's some risk that, gold may look like, well, a metallic gold can look like a lot of different things.
So, Mr. Polinsky, let me ask this. Is there a way that a sample of the gold lettering could be provided to the planning department and then someone from the Historic Preservation Commission could go there and view the color, or is some other means of doing that so that we can
Yeah,
comply with that condition?
yeah, I would have to paint the sample now. Like he says, I have a book of hundreds of different of golds. Would you just want one sample? Would you like me to give you a few, like 2 or 3, and you choose?
That might be good. I mean, to tell you what I'm thinking, I would hate for there to be a sign in our historic village that was a really flashy, shiny gold. That might look like something you'd see on The Price is Right or a game show.
I mean, pawn shop gold?
Yeah, so
That's my concern.
The brightest, shiniest gold you could really get would be a real gold leaf sign. Paint won't look like that. You can't duplicate that effect any other way. So I could choose a metallic gold, won't be flashy, won't look like a silver, not silvery, but a mirror gold or something that's too shiny at all. It just won't happen with a metallic paint. So you have different variations. You have lighter yellows, the darker yellows, but I could give you a sample of 2 or 3 different colors of gold that I think look nice with the black, and then you can choose from that.
That sounds perfect. I think we understand each other.
And if we have someone from the HPC who's willing to view that, what we've done in the past is the chair is aware on other matters. Basically, we'll go by what you folks think, because it's essentially being approved on condition to view this. So there is some member who can do that. We can let Mr. Polinsky know so that he can get those samples over to the planning department, and the HPC member can view that. And if you want to have more than one HPC member, that's okay.
Yeah, so I'll get that over. It'll take me a day or so to just prepare that, and then I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll probably just paint some aluminum swatches. Small swatches is the easiest way for me to do that. I'll label them, and they'll have a number on it, and then you just tell me what number that you guys want.
Okay. So among the members who are on tonight, whoever is able to do that, and Ms. Polinsky, before I get to the members, that can just be dropped off at the planning department offices, Jaime, so that Jamie Kane can get that, and she'll hold that for whoever comes from the HPC to view it. Simple as that. COVID protocols still apply at the operations center, I should advise everybody. But whoever is able to come down among the members, that's just fine. And then all you need to do is let me know, and then I can draft the certificate of appropriateness with the selection already basically taken care of. So I'll leave that up to the members to decide who's able to do that.
What time do you guys close? Because I'm at work during the week. I wouldn't mind shooting down, but I'm at work.
Jaime, I leave that up to you.
At 5:30, so
Oh, I can make it. I get off at 4. I can get there by 4:30.
okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, Joyce.
You're welcome.
I won't be able to make it. I don't get off work till 5:30, and I'm also going on holiday for a week or 2. So if you want it in a timely fashion, I won't be able to get there in the next until at least the 17th of October.
We'll get you the next time.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the application on the condition that the applicant provide a copy, as Mr. Polinsky suggested, or a sample of the, or a few samples for us to look at of the lettering, of the gold lettering, to the planning department. And Joyce Cole has volunteered to look at the sample and give it the thumbs up and approve it. Subject to that condition, I would move to approve. Would someone kindly second the motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Polinsky.
Okay, I'll get those samples over to you.
Perfect. Thank you much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I think we're now up to the sort of old business part of the agenda,
Continuing business, yeah.
or whatever you wish to call it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jaime. I appreciate that. Why don't we leave the most challenging matter for last, which is 34 State Street. And Stuart, I leave it to you whether we should do some of the discussion off the record as an advice of counsel session.
I think we're okay. You know why, Adam? Because even if we did it as an advice of counsel, it's just the six of us will know if someone else inadvertently pops in, so we're okay.
Okay.
But proceed with the other stuff is fine with me.
Okay. Local landmarks. Well, here's what I had in mind. There was some confusion recently about which buildings are locally landmarked in the village of Ossining. Specifically, the owner of the Washington School recently inquired about whether that property is locally landmarked. And the answer to that question is no, it's not. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, but it is not locally landmarked. And I think it's very important that this information about which properties are locally landmarked in the village of Ossining be really, really easily accessible and posted on our website. Previously, we did have a list posted, but it was not, you had to go digging for it a bit. And I would like to work with either Jamie Kane or someone else at the planning department to make sure that the list is posted in a conspicuous fashion. Clicking on a link, and there you go. You see the half dozen or so properties that are locally landmarked. But it's notable that the Washington School, which is really an exceptional building, is not locally landmarked. And when buildings are not locally landmarked, sometimes changes happen to them that are not especially appropriate to the historic character of the building. And that's the whole reason for landmarking. So I'll leave my comments there for now. I'm going to circle back with Jamie Kane and perhaps work with her on getting a list posted to the HBC webpage that's clear as day and easily accessible to anyone who visits the HBC webpage. I'm moving now to item D, which is the Preservation League webinar on historic rehabilitation tax credits. That happened last Wednesday. I was there. I made some introductory remarks. The organizer of the event, Christina Hingle from the New York State Preservation League was there. She made some introductory remarks, and the bulk of the hour and a half presentation was done by an expert from the State Historic Preservation Office, Julian Adams, who focuses much of his workday on assisting owners of commercial or income producing properties, as well as homeowners, in applying for these tax credits. It was a information filled presentation, and I think it was very informative. I myself am considering taking advantage of the homeowner tax credit. Pardon me. I learned that, for instance, split units, also known as ductless air conditioning, you see these often in restaurants, long rectangular units that sit above door frames. I understand, or I learned from this presentation, that when owners of historic homes install them, that work qualifies. And these units are great for historic homes because they're minimally invasive. They're ductless, so you're not, invading the walls and tearing out plaster to install ducts. So it was interesting to learn that work is in fact covered under this tax credit program.
You're saying the ductless mini split system?
That would be for heat and air conditioning, that would be.
No, I have a funny story about that.
Okay.
So a couple of days ago, somebody came from Bruni and Campisi.
Yes.
To ductless system to spec it out and figure out what it would cost, because they told me that there's a lot of if you're in the moratorium area, if you're in the gas moratorium district, which I believe Ossining is.
Yes.
Yonkers is. There's a lot of money for you to switch over. I live in a historic home as well. We don't have ducts. We have a bunch of ACs hanging out of the windows, and we have a boiler system, which is, hit or miss. So it seemed like as good a time as any since we had all this flood stuff. They came and spec'd it out. The price to put in the system was like $133,000. $133,800. The rebate, the Con Ed rebate, to pay for all of this, which would have included the mini split systems throughout the house, plus the upgraded electrical panels to deal with this, plus brand new hot water heater, was $133,000.
How many units?
It was like 11 heads in the house, and it's like 4 separate units plus a condenser, I think, and so a big setup, but it cost like $800 after all the rebates, essentially. It's hard to believe. We haven't actually said yes because it's got the, some things are too good to be true kind of feeling to it. So I don't know. I'm curious if anybody else with the old historic homes actually had these systems and used them for heat before. That's what worries me.
Yeah, I won't comment on the price, which seems steep. And I've looked into this preliminarily myself, and I'm not aware of any rebates that would significantly reduce the quotes that I've gotten. So that's why these tax incentives are attractive to me. Potentially, if I were to install these ductless units, I would be able to apply 20% of the cost of the project as a credit against my income taxes, which is desirable. And what's also nice for owners of homes who can't do a lot of work at once, like me, you can do it every year. There is no cap, so I can do renovation projects year after year, use this credit year after year. There's also something nice to learn. There were about 20 people in attendance, give or take a few dropped off after a bit. The New York State Preservation League forwarded me a link to the webinar or recording, which I forwarded on today to the planning department. My hope is to get that posted to the HPC webpage as soon as possible. I think it's going to be a terrific resource for homeowners in the village and owners of commercial properties and income producing properties. The speaker was phenomenal and so knowledgeable. And frankly, I think it's hard to absorb in one sitting. Catherine, I think, was there. I want to revisit it, and that's the beauty of a recording. You can replay things. I think this was a success overall. I enjoyed a good working relationship with the New York State Preservation League. My contact there has encouraged me to reach out to the other commission members to try to figure out a date in the future where we can meet and talk with her about historic preservation issues in the village of Ossining. Unfortunately, they are not available generally to meet at our normal meeting time, or else I would have invited her tonight. So we can do that perhaps offline. Catherine, did you want to add anything about the program?
Oh, no, I found it just as fascinating. I live in an older house too. And yeah, it's the kind of information that just nobody knows. So I think having it on the website is great. And spreading the word that maybe people who don't think they have the funds could, work on some of these older houses in town.
Yeah.
Adam, I'll ask Jamie Hoffman, if she can put it on both the weekly web blast, which goes to a much wider circulation, and also if perhaps they can put a little bit in the weekly mayor's message, because a lot of people read that, and if the link is there, that may be helpful as well. So I'll get that over to Jamie Hoffman tomorrow, so that that can get disseminated more than just to the HPC webpage, but even on the front of the village's webpage for a little period of time.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. That's a great idea. And I think people who watch it will appreciate that it really and truly was customized in many respects for the village. So the speaker had flashed a map of the village. He confirmed that the entire village is in the qualifying census tract. So I very much appreciated that they made an effort to speak directly to village property owners, although others were welcome to attend and did attend, which was nice as well. Okay, moving on to, I'm not sure which letter it is, but another agenda item is the high school essay contest. I cannot believe it's October already. And it's been a year since we ran the essay contest. I would love to see it run again. We may not be able to make it happen so that we can get entrance and to the contest and make an award around Christmas time, which is nice timing. We were able to make an award to last year's contest winner around Christmas time. It may spill over into the new year, likely will, but I would like to do it again. And I will talk to last year's contest sponsor to see if he's interested in doing it again. I don't want to burden him with shouldering the financial burden of making the awards. And maybe we can revisit this at the next meeting if we're still looking for a contest sponsor.
That sounds great.
Unless there are any other thoughts on points I've mentioned so far, I would turn it over to Stuart to give us an update on 34 State Street, the Smith Robinson house.
The bane of my existence. Not Smith Robinson house, just everything surrounding it. Well, two things. The village has notified the owner that the building permit that was issued is no longer valid because there was no construction started within the time period required under the code. The attorney for the builder or for the owner has challenged that. He said to me, well, we did start some work. What they were really doing was just cleaning up the demolition from before. They really were not doing construction.
Right.
So that's out there. The owner is obviously not pleased with our determination on a couple of levels. One, he'll need to get himself a new building permit, which the last permit cost him in excess of $340,000. And secondly, he is apparently in contract to sell, and the purchaser is none too pleased to learn that he may not have a building permit. The lack of a building permit also affects all of his prior approvals because all of his prior approvals have essentially timed out as well. So he's got some issues there that we will be dealing with. On the issue as relates specifically to Smith Robinson, I had, as you recall, the last meeting, there was a gentleman, Mr. Mazamuka was there, Jonathan Cluse, who is a representative of the owner, and Dan Leary, who is the attorney who I referenced. And I've been trying to find out exactly what has happened since that meeting, because I've reminded council a couple of times that regardless of the situation with the building permit, the owner is under an obligation to maintain and secure Smith Robinson House. That's part of the 270-25, which is our code, as well as the certificate of appropriateness that was issued. The attorney wrote back to me today because I wanted to sort of get an idea of what was going on. And he said that the engineer was at the site on September the 14th. He was able to do a preliminary inspection, but not a full inspection. And that to do the full inspection, the engineer wants the lathe to be removed from the top floor ceiling and plaster from the walls in order to inspect the roof framing and bearing walls. And that in order to do a full inspection, he wants the stairs fixed and to install plywood on the top floor for safe access and inspection. The attorney asserts that he had notified us of this before. I must admit that if he had, I don't recall seeing that email. This seems to be the first time I've heard it. But then he writes in his final sentence, given the building inspector's email regarding the invalidation of the building permit, we are very confused on to how the village expects us to proceed. And I wrote back saying, well, you're conflating the building permit with the HPC requirements and with the code requirements. So we'd like you guys to get cracking with regard to the work that has to be done at Smith Robinson House. I expect that they're going to slow move it. So that's why, as I've talked before, we will be going into court to just get them to do something with regard to Smith Robinson. I think that this owner who I've indicated before, this is an owner who did not anticipate actually owning the building. They were the finance people, and they have suddenly found themselves in this position. I know they're taking the position that this has been a longstanding issue, but frankly, they've been the finance people for a long period of time. But part of what concerns me about what they say the engineer wants for a full inspection is that all the lathe be removed from the top floor ceiling and plaster from the walls. I realize that most of what HPC does is obviously exterior work, but Joyce, you would have probably a better sense of this, and maybe Adam, than I do. But if they're talking about removing that all the lathe from the top floor ceiling and plaster be removed, that could effectively be, historic in design, at least in terms of the lathe that they're talking about. So that's some concern to me that I don't challenge that the engineer may need to do some, but to remove all of it maybe is somewhat of a concern here in terms of what it's going to look like after the fact. That the stairs have to be fixed and that and plywood has to be installed. I got that, but part of what they're recommending here, potentially could have impact in terms of what it was to look like after the construction was done, pursuant to the earlier issued certificate of appropriateness. So that, when I saw that, I don't recall that being actually put in writing before. So that's sort of the first I'm seeing that, even though counsel said that he had, told us this before. Actually, I should say this. What he wrote to me is, in response to your email, please be advised that as discussed at the HPC meeting, the engineer visited the site on Tuesday, the 14th. Well, since he was at the meeting on the 13th, I don't think he could have told us that he had visited the site on the 14th. So it's sort of like, X doesn't, one does not follow from the other. But since he's now saying that some of this has to be removed, I wrote back to him today saying not only is there work that has to be done, but clearly you have to specify what you're talking about, removing all, what may well be historic design in terms of the interior of Smith Robinson. So again, I think that, attributing their lack of action to the fact that the permit for the rest of the project has been invalidated simply doesn't hold water. The fact of the matter is they haven't had a permit for Smith Robinson House since 2015. So, what they need to do is obviously get their work done with regard to at least maintaining Smith Robinson. The Justice Court appearance with regard to essentially demolition by neglect is on for the 19th, I believe, of October, which would be 2 weeks from tomorrow. I have instructed the Deputy Corporation Counsel not to consent to any further adjournments of that particular application. If the court wants to grant an adjournment, it can do so, but I don't want to consent to it because it's just been dragging a bit. So that's where it is right now. But again, when they sort of ask how they're confused as to how they want us to, they should proceed. Well, they should proceed in accord with what 270-25 says. They're supposed to maintain it and keep it in appropriate condition, and not essentially allow the building to, fall in on itself. That was the case before they met with you folks on the 13th, and it remains the case today. So that's where things are. The Board of Trustees is aware that the permit has been declared essentially invalid, and I expect that that will be challenged probably in court by the applicant, but I'll let them do that. That's fine. They want to go into court. I know where White Plains is. I know how to get there. I even know. I used to know the shortcut up the elevators, but they probably don't have that anymore since I haven't been there in a while. But in any event, we'll deal with that. As I said, the idea of removing all the lathe, again, I'm not as familiar with all the terminology, but when they say that everything should be removed from the top floor ceiling, that concerns me a little bit. So that's what I've got for you folks at this point, but I'm happy to answer anything I can, or if not, communicate it to Mr. Leary, who's the owner's attorney.
I have a number of thoughts, but Jaime, did I hear you interject at one point?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say something. It's probably not that relevant. I just the plaster and lathe, obviously there's some historical aspects to it, but generally speaking, I mean, I unless it's like really old plaster that's been, imprinted with signs and sort of, features to it, which I doubt, right? There's no like plaster medallions as part of it. It's just a straight plaster ceiling, like a simple removing sections of it. I'd be surprised how much of it's salvageable at this point anyways. That's the only thing
Okay.
I wonder how much of it's not like even still there. There are some really nice old plaster ceilings that have like these sort of molded, fleur-de-lis or various different things on them. If this is not that, I'm not sure how much you're saving.
I honestly don't know. I saw it and I saw when it says all of it, that's where I had a concern, but
Yeah, I mean,
You
if
may
you
well
don't
be
have
right.
to take it, you probably wouldn't want to take it, but I've been inside it recently and
Yeah.
it had collapsed on the bottom floor. So
yeah. And if you'll remember, the reason that we have the engineer going, which is a request of the building inspector, is that he wanted a certification from an engineer that the structure can withhold the weight of whatever they want to put on the roof. So to do that, this engineer obviously not only wants to have the stairs fixed and the plywood installed so that for safe access and inspection, but also he wants the other areas removed so he can inspect the roof framing and the bearing walls. So I think there's going to, unfortunately, as Jaime points out, there's going to have to be some give with regard to that, because if we want to essentially protect what still we can protect, some internal, removal is it looks like going to have to be done. But again, that all should be done irrespective of the situation relating to the permit for the 3 apartment buildings that they want to build. The 2 are not interrelated.
So I say this for Mary Kay's benefit, but the HPC under the code does not have any jurisdiction over the interior of any building. We're just concerned with exterior features. That said, I have a vague memory of seeing some document in connection with this project that did refer to the interior. And I wonder if, as a point of negotiation or discussion years ago, there was some representation or promise on the part of the developer that the interior would be preserved in some respects. I don't know if that's contained in the certificate of appropriateness that the HPC issued. I do wonder if it's set forth elsewhere, and I don't remember which document I saw, and I could be misremembering.
Adam, that might actually be in the site plan resolution itself, if not. I mean, I know that the HPC issued a certificate of appropriateness, and a few months later, that was followed by a note from Joanne Tall regarding some of the specific exterior work that they were going to do, and in terms of how it looked. But I have to go back and look at the site plan resolution. It also might be part of the. There was an environmental impact statement with regard to this project, and there may well be something in there. I would just have to go back and look at that EIS to see. But I also have a recollection there was something about what was going to be done to the interior in terms of how it would be used, but how they would try to restore. So I just want to check that, because while it may not be part, let me say this, it may not be part of the COA, but it is very possible that it is part of some other document which did obligate the owner to maintain in some way. So we can check that out.
Thank you, Stuart. And all of these discussions in the secret process happened before I moved to Ossining. So I'm not intimately familiar with the discussions, although, like I said, I do have a recollection of seeing some document referring to some promise or representation regarding the interior. I will look through the documents that were provided to me when I joined the HPC and see if I can find anything. But looking at the the resolution, site plan resolution, and the environmental impact statement may be
Sure.
the key.
No problem.
And yeah, I do not have a recollection of hearing about total removal of plaster in the walls and the ceiling in order to do an inspection. So that's news to me as well, and it caught my attention. Okay. Also, just to back up for a second,
Sure.
I think the village needs to be commended for enforcing the code and enforcing the demolition by neglect provision. Code enforcement, no matter which municipality you're in, it's understaffed, under-resourced, and generally when human lives are endangered by hazardous building conditions, that takes priority over, and should take priority over preserving historic buildings. Human life certainly takes precedence. So I personally appreciate that our buildings department has taken an interest in this and issued a violation.
Thanks.
Okay, so any other thoughts about this? I mean, this is still very much in process. Since our jurisdiction really is limited to the exterior, and since it looks like engineering studies are being commissioned, I wonder if in the course of perhaps negotiating some resolution of this, there might be discussion of getting a real clear assessment of the exterior of the building as a whole from an engineer, or perhaps putting into escrow some money so that an independent engineer retained by the village could, assess the building. That's my concern as an HPC member. Really, what is going on with the exterior of this building? What's going on? And perhaps as part of discussions toward a resolution of this, they can commission a comprehensive engineering study of the exterior, or like I said, put up some money in escrow so that an independent engineering firm can be retained to do that. Those are my thoughts. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, I do. Being fairly new to this, if we do that and we have an engineer come look at it, do they have any say in whether or not we can get onto the property?
We can get on the property.
We'll be on, we can't, well, we can get onto the property.
Okay.
Particularly because if it's as part of the land use process.
Well,
It
it's
really
subject
wouldn't
to an
be-
OTR right now as well. I mean, the building permit is closed, but it is subject to an OTR, so. I
Well,
think-
actually, an appearance ticket. They're actually in court now with regard to this. So we'll, if we needed to, Mary Kay, we could get in there.
Okay.
what I would say though, Mary, is you can't get in that building.
Hmm.
I would not be comfortable letting anybody in that building.
It's not, it's both unsafe, both physically and, in terms of just the condition, but also there's mold, it's just,
It's
you don't want
bad.
to be there unless you're in a full hazmat suit and really, protected.
I have access to that. hazmat suit.
Yes, I know you do. Yes, I know you do.
Catherine, any thoughts about this proposed removal of the plaster ceilings in order to fully assess the structural integrity of the roof supports?
Yeah, I mean, surely you need to get up there. Full removal would be something, it's a red flag. I would definitely want to know why full removal, but yeah, I mean, you definitely have to take something down to get up there and get a good look and make some penetrations to just see what's going on, but that's normal. Full removal seems like introducing even, I don't know, because you'd have to be, I don't know, I'd be concerned about the support. I mean, it just seems like something I'd want to know why. Has it been done before? Is that standard? And, definitely something to pursue.
Fair enough. Thank you, Catherine.
One last point I'll make is going back to the historic tax credit webinar. It's a much more generous tax credit for owners of commercial properties, twice as much. 40% of the project cost can be credited against whatever LLC or other corporate entity owns this property. I don't know if we're at a point in time when we can start suggesting things like this, but I mean, that's the idea. The whole idea of the tax credit program is to avoid situations like this and to make it easier for owners of these buildings to undertake what can sometimes be very expensive renovations. What a tremendous benefit to an owner of a commercial building to take 40%, almost half of the project cost and apply it against their income taxes. It's a tremendous incentive for commercial property owners in particular. So with that,
that may talk louder than anything else to these folks, because they may not be familiar with it. And as I said, they're the money guys. They're not the the tax credit guys, and they're certainly not the builders. I think they'd like out of this as quickly and as quickly as they can. But so that is something to think about, because they get a lot. That's a very significant savings, particularly on what will be a very big project with regard to that building alone. Put aside the other 3 apartment buildings that they propose to put in there.
Does anyone have anything further to add? Comments, questions? All right. Given that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting. Would someone care to second the motion?
Second.
I'll second.
I think Catherine beat Mary Kay to the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much, folks. Mary Kay, shoot me an email if my email's still working at amarkovics@villageofossining.org, amarkovics@villageofossining.org, and let's set up a time to speak so that I can sort of give you a crash course in the HPC.
Okay, yeah, I'm leaving on Wednesday, so it would definitely be when I come back in later October.
No problem.
Okay.
And our next meeting is November 1, if you can believe that, the day before Election Day.